I coached more than 500 plus individuals and did 3,000 sessions. I like to use a 90 days planning cycle because it allows you enough time to experiment, but not a long time to be completely immersed in one thing. So if it doesn't work, you can change. If you have a great strategy, but you cannot execute it, who cares?
Yes.
And if you execute without strategy, you're going to be all over the place and you may not hit your goals. So you really need to have this kind of a strong connection or marriage between the strategy and the tactics. And to close that loop, that's the value of having an executive coach. Yeah. Because you will not see it. You're going to be so into it, so believing that you can fix everything and that you can solve every problem that can be encountered in your business and with your team.
Welcome back to the Hustle and Grind podcast, the show where we dig into why real entrepreneurs trade comfort for conviction. This isn't about vanity metrics or overnight success. It's about the stories behind building a reputation that actually matters. I'm your host, Andrew, keynote architect, platform builder, and fellow founder in the trenches. Today, I'm sitting down with Laura Aziz, a professional certified executive coach. With a doctorate in public health and over 30 years of experience, Laura has led complex projects for Fortune 500 companies in the US, UK, and UAE. She's an expert at helping leaders get unstuck, overcome imposter syndrome, and accelerate their success. Her unique approach helps hundreds of leaders build confidence, endure their brand, and strategically lead change. And she's here to share how to neutralize those self-limiting beliefs that prevent us from achieving greatness. Laura, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to have you here. And based on the conversation we already had in the green room, we're going to have a great conversation today. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Andrew. Great to have you.
Thank you. So we learned a little bit about you in the intro and your background, but we started to talking about a specific part of your coaching. So first thing I'd like to do, let's go through a little bit about your coaching. Like, what experiences have you had in the coaching world? What are some, how did you get into the coaching world? Let's start with that first. That's always the fun question.
Great question. So for 20 years prior to 2020, when the pandemic hit, I was in consulting. I was traveling to work at client sites, help them transition from paper records to electronic records in healthcare information technology. And I loved it. It was my domain. It was what I enjoyed to do. Along the way, people would always ask me, how can I become a consultant like you? And sometimes some of the directors or senior managers would ask, like, after working on this great project and learning all these things, what is next for me? What would you recommend from what you see, what you saw at other clients? What would you recommend? So I would work with them on creating that stretch project. Like, what can you do that's out of your comfort zone, that can showcase all your skills so you can get to the next level? Go from IT to operations, expand. So working on brand, working on presentation skills, working on just voicing what you're interested in. So I was doing coaching as a hobby, if you will, and it expanded my realization that there is a lot of need out there. People want to talk with someone who has experience, who have seen different things that's not mainstream necessarily, and get that insight. And I started I would say it was a calling, if you will, because I started finding, when they say, like, when you're looking for a red car, you start seeing all these red cars. So I started seeing lots of events about coaching, and I started subscribing and listening, and I liked what I heard. And when the pandemic hit in 2020, I was ready, to switch from being on the road. There was no travel, we were at home. So it was an opportunity for me to finish my coursework and get certified as an executive coach. And I continued to do it. So I got from ACC, which is Associate Certified Coach, to PCC, which is Professional Certified Coach. And at the beginning of this year, I renewed the second term as a Professional Certified Coach. In the interim, I coached more than 500 plus individuals and did 3,000 sessions. So I feel like I've learned a lot myself, and I became more comfortable talking with people that I don't necessarily know or know a lot about, but quickly, in a matter of 15 minutes, 30 minutes at most, break the ice, get into a deeper level of conversation so I can help them.
Mm-hmm. And with that amount of experience, especially as a coach, you've heard a lot of different things. And so you can bring that huge amount of experience to others. It sort of amplifies itself. And I think that's one of the reasons, I've had some amazing coaches in my time who have just been able to bring another perspective, another version of something, to reflect something back on me that I was missing. Yeah. And I think it's a profession that can be incredibly helpful. I mean, you have a coach when you're a professional athlete. Might as well have a coach when you're a business as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the things, like as far as coaching, if somebody were to be looking for a coach, what are some things they should be looking for? Because coaching is a huge term out there right now, and it's a really big buzzword. And there's a difference in the level of quality of coaches. Some are, we'll put it at that. What would you look for if you were going out knowing what you know now? What would you do for as far as a coach?
Yeah, you want to at least like the person. I think the chemistry is very important. Mm-hmm. So as I was telling you earlier, Andrew, that I feel I'm lucky in a great place in my coaching career because all the clients I have today are all repeating clients.
Nice.
They coached with me a couple of years ago and then they changed jobs. They are now with another company and they want this trusted, confident, and an objective thinker. And it's an amazing experience to me when they pull a question about a topic that we did not bring before. And all of a sudden the wires start connecting in my mind, like, oh, I read an article on that and a book on that. And I had a client like that. And I start kind of sharing, posing some possibility of ways to tackle this problem. And all of a sudden they get an aha moment, like, yeah, oh, thank you. I really figured out what I want to do with that. And it's like, oh, that quickly? That's amazing. Nice. So that's kind of the value of coaching and getting to know your coach, both as a person and obviously as a professional. So my professional background for years, I was leading major projects and doing change management, navigating change. So most of my clients are leaders, so they are implementing projects all the time. And there is change coming at us, in high velocity these days because of AI and everything else, and reorganizing and hiring new people, letting go of people who are not the right fit for the organization today. So these topics, depending on what industry my client is in, they could be in pharma, they could be in healthcare, it could be information technology, banking. Mm-hmm. These topics cut across many leadership positions. And they don't want just the personal coaching. They want some insights into how to handle the issues they are having. Some issues that many new or I would say people who are more sensitive are worried about is giving feedback. So many times you get amazing people, smart people at the top of their careers, but they have an underperforming team member and it's like, I don't want to hurt them. I'm afraid they will feel demotivated. It's like, okay, let's talk about it from all aspects, So there are topics that cut across all industries, like, giving feedback to your team members, but relating to the coach on prior experience, what they are good at, and then their personality and their communication style makes the conversation interesting and rewarding.
Huh. Now, so you brought up a couple of really good things. And I think as entrepreneurs, feedback is always weird for us because our feedback is usually that's awful. Stop. We don't worry a whole lot about that, about being tactful.
Right. Yeah.
I have told people that candor is my love language. I will just very directly say something. So in a corporate world, it's different. You really can't do that. But But in the entrepreneur world, I think we're a little bit more candid. Is there a way to do it where we can still remain candid? Because for us, being candid is a respect factor. Like,
Yes.
I'm not going to mince words. I'm not going to tell, kind of beat around the bush. I'm just going to tell you what's wrong, and then we're going to fix it. Have you ever seen that work well? And what are some of the tips that you can give for that sort of a direct feedback style?
I like to do let's pause. Okay. Instead of saying, whoa, where are we going? Or that we're heading in the wrong direction. I say, let's pause. Because sometimes when the clients start talking about an issue, there is an emotion attached to it. And they start bundling things together and it becomes mushy, like you are like, let's untangle this. So I usually say, okay, let's pause and work on this first issue. And when you have clarity, we can tackle the second one and the third one. Okay. Because many people tend to have several issues convoluted together.
Got it. Okay.
So that's kind of the first, like let's go to the root cause. Mm-hmm. Let's see where the main source of the problem is. Is it like a miscommunication? Is it a personality issues? Like I've two things that were like shocking to me. You probably have seen articles on having a toxic boss and what to do if you have a toxic boss. But what was really shocking is having a toxic peer. And many people from amazing companies complain of having a toxic peer and what can they do? Because if you have a toxic boss, like if you either can fix the relationship, know how to handle it, or start looking for something else, because it's your future. If you have a boss that you cannot work with, cannot tolerate, you better protect yourself. But if you have a toxic peer, you're not going to leave a good job or a good company because you have a toxic peer. Mm-hmm. But this toxic peer sometimes is toxic to the extent that they show amazingly well in front of senior management. Mm-hmm. But with you, they are hiding information or they are lying or bad-mouthing you in your back. It's like, how to deal with this? So that's kind of where really it becomes like you need that human coach. Like, I cannot answer this problem for you. You need a human coach to speak with you and kind of try to decipher what is a tactic that you can use to either prevent them from doing that or let it be seen by others, so you don't feel like you are showing as it's spoiling your reputation. Like after all, at work, your brand and your reputation is a very important thing to move up and be respected and liked.
Yeah, and that's true. Exactly. That it's a branding thing. And really, you're seen as a specific person, and it goes from there. I like how you put that. So let's pivot for a second, because we had a really good conversation on coaching and AI. And I think you brought up a really interesting topic that I had never thought about it. Like so my mom's a psychologist. And so when AI started coming, I bounce ideas off of ChatGPT. Uh-huh. So it's like, okay, I just need a hand, just give me some feedback. Mm-hmm. And when I started doing this, it seemed like it was doing a really good job being empathetic and reflecting things back to me. And I texted my mom today going, be careful, you're going to be out of a job if AI keeps up with this. She's been retired, so she's fine.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times we think that AI is this panacea that's going to solve all these problems and do all of these things. And it's very, very good at mimicking, but it can't quite get a bunch of things right. So go into some of the studies you've been doing on that, because I know you've been researching this quite a bit.
Yeah, it is a very interesting life in our lifetime, interesting time, to really consider how can you leverage AI to improve your research, improve your knowledge, leverage it to enhance your capabilities, learn new things. But it's not going to replace the human interaction, the empathy, the compassion, feeling heard and loved and cared for. That's not going to happen from AI. Even if you have a real robot, which, by the way, I love robotics. My son, when he was in high school, I was on the robotics team and I traveled with them. So I love robotics. And I got the Roomba. Remember the Roomba vacuum cleaner?
Yes. Yep.
We had the very first version of it. So I do really love technology and the idea of having a robot. Like I'd like a robot that can cook. That would be amazing. Prepare food
great.
for you. That's not the human interaction. That's not when you're, challenged with a topic at work or in your life and you want to speak with a person that understands you and have experienced similar things and can bounce ideas off. Like nobody's going to give you advice that is like, oh, you have to do 1, 2, 3. It's a human. You have your agency. You can decide what you want to do, whether you're exchanging ideas, whether this person is senior than you. You have your agency. You do what you want to do, but you need that interaction, the objective person who is not bringing, it's not embroiled in the emotion. It's not one of your family members. It's not your boss at work that you're not going to share private things with them. It's an objective. So that's the value of having a human coach. You have a person who is not biased and is objective and can help you see things. I like to use the word reframing. Mm-hmm. So it's a very easy tool to leverage when you're seeing things that are totally challenging or you're upset about it. It's like, how can we see it in a different perspective? Yeah. How can we reframe it? That it's not very negative, it's not very scary. It's not doomsday, the sky is not falling. We can use our objective analysis, try to find the root cause of the problem and try to find ways to manage it and decide what is the next step. So when I work with my clients, whether they are senior executives or mid-level, I like to use a 90 days planning cycle because it allows you enough time to experiment, but not a long time to be completely immersed in one thing. So if it doesn't work, you can change. Okay. Like I like to do, if we use this strategy, what do we want to see in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? If it's working and you're happy with it, let's continue, do the next 90 days. But if it's not working, then we can try something else. And there are many other leaders in the industry who greatly recommend the 90-day cycle. You probably know of the famous book by Michael Watkins on the first 90 days. And I was always curious. I always liked this book when I was consulting because there was always a first 90 days, when I had a new client. So it was my go-to book. I'd like to look at his strategies before I hit the ground at a new client. And then I would say, so what's after the 90 days? What does he expect people to do? And then he started addressing that by saying, it's not just the first 90 days. It's a technique that you can use for the next 90 days and the next 90 days. Yeah. And it's not too long that if you're not on the right track, you can easily maneuver and try a new thing. Yeah. So that's my technique. That's my approach that I use with all my clients is to work on 90 days, first 90 days and next 90 days.
Well, and if you're familiar with the Entrepreneur Operating System in the book Traction, they do that. They call them the rocks, and you define your rocks every 90 days. Yeah. And this is the thing over the next 90 days that I need to do. And I think that's far enough for us to think through, but not so far that it seems like something is going to happen in the future, but not so soon that we get really myopic and we can't see the forest of the trees. And, I think 90 days, I do 90-day rocks. I think I've seen a lot of other people do it well. So I like that one.
Is this strategic coach, the rocks? I heard that before. Is it strategic coach?
It's an Entrepreneur Operating System, or EOS. It was based on a book called Traction, and it's been around a long time. It's been around a long time, but it's something that I learned of years ago, where you have an implementer and a visionary is the CEO of a company. Implementer is the person that actually makes it work, and everyone reports to the implementer, and it lets the visionary do their own thing, lets the implementer the implementer's in charge of making it happen. Yes. And it's just the greatest way to run an entrepreneurial company. And I've seen it work really well. And so,
I love it. It's funny because because of the years maybe that I've been doing this work, I have the ability to walk up and down across that vertical. So I have a visionary leadership toolkit. And I worked, actually, I took a certification in it from Oleg Konovalov, who wrote a book called The Visionary Code.
Oh, yeah.
And in it, when I started working with him, he was actually blending vision with strategy, which was very interesting because I was doing vision and I was doing strategy. So now he had a methodology he called caviar, which starts with clarity, clarity of the vision. The C in caviar is the clarity of the vision. So I like to do the vision and strategy, but then my experience was in implementing, executing this mega project. So very few people, and I say it with being humble, but being proud too, that very few people can do the strategy and the execution.
Yes.
And I love to walk through that line. I have a fine practice of going up and down along that vertical and help my clients through it too, like thinking in terms of what's the vision, what's the strategy to execute the vision, and then how can we actually do it and monitor it and track it so we can finish on time, achieve our goals, and then think what's next, what's next.
I think I've heard it referred to as strategies and tactics. So you have strategies with the overall thing, and the tactics is the thing that you do the strategy with. And, so.
And I like to see it as cyclical, it's cyclical. Yeah. It's married really together, because if you have a great strategy, but you cannot execute it, who cares?
Yes.
And if you execute without strategy, you're going to be all over the place and you may not hit your goals. So you really need to have this kind of strong connection or marriage between the strategy and the tactics.
And I think that's something that entrepreneurs have a lot of trouble with is we're very good at the strategies. We are not good at the tactics. And so having a person around to be able to help with that and reflect back and go, hey, are you looking at this? That's how I learned about strategies and tactics is because I was doing it the wrong way. I was using.
And then delegating, as an entrepreneur or a business owner or a leader in an organization, you cannot do everything. And I had one amazing client, a senior female executive who got promoted and she was not delegating enough. And she actually told me that nobody will do it as good as I do. It's like, okay, but you cannot do everything. You have to. It's not a choice. It's a must because you will not find yourself. You're going to explode. And work will fall through the cracks. And people actually around her were complaining that they are not having enough work. She was hoarding all the good work.
Yep.
And then complaining that she doesn't have time. She's working 12 hours, blah, blah, blah. So it is a reality that it's good to have vision. It's good to have a clear strategy and have somebody who is really good to oversee the execution. Mm-hmm. And delegating is a key principle. You have to let go of thinking that you're the best person and that you can do everything yourself and nobody's going to do it as good as I do it. Mm-hmm. It's not a thriving methodology.
Yeah, not at all. And I've seen that so many times in the entrepreneur world where our companies are our babies. I've done it. I mean, I will fess up. I've done it. Our companies are our babies. We are very emotionally attached to them. It takes over our lives. Our work-life balance is very different, I will answer emails at 3 p.m. on a Sunday. That's not unusual, but we're so passionate and so deeply embedded that sometimes it's difficult to give up the reins.
And to close that loop, that's the value of having an executive coach. Yeah. Because you will not see it. You're going to be so into it, so believing that you can fix everything and that you can solve every problem that can be encountered in your business and with your team. But a coach has to kind of guide you, say, hey, can you delegate this? And can you give this to XYZ? And how about you having some quiet time to think, and how the future can be? Where do you want to grow? Mm-hmm. So that's the value of having a good executive coach.
It's having an outside objective observer.
That
somebody AI really cannot emotionally attached to the situation, but they can say, hey, let me reflect this back on you.
Right. Yes. Right. The mirror, yeah. And AI cannot do that, because you're not going to be honest in telling them what you're doing.
I've tried it. Yeah, AI, it sounds like it's really good. It sounds like it's good at stuff, but I've noticed it miss things. And there's nothing better than human emotion. It's not going to ever quite get right. And it's also not going to get that really deep experience and being able to apply that experience. I don't think it's going to get to that point.
It's not going to look you in the eye. Yeah, it's not going to look you in the eye and say, Andrew, you have to delegate this work and stop answering emails at 3 a.m. That's not good for you.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm an entrepreneur. I mean, that's what we do. So if somebody wants to learn more about you, I think we're going to put a bunch of links into the show notes. So there's LinkedIn, there's Mava Solutions, so your company, lauraaziz.com, so we can take a look at all of that for you. Thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate it.
It was really amazing to get a chance to speak and engage in this vibrant discussion.
Awesome.
Hopefully we can do it again. There is so much to be said.
Absolutely. You have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Hustle and Grind podcast, where we unpack what it really takes to build something that matters. If today's conversation hit home, do me a favor. Share it with someone who's in the trenches too. And if you're building your own brand, platform, or message and want help turning that story into serious authority, head over to theauthorityforge.com to see how we can help. Until next time, keep showing up, keep shipping, and keep chasing the work that sets you on fire. I'm Andrew, and this was the Hustle and Grind podcast.